One of the challenges of designing a mech, or designing anything really, is coming up with a compelling primary form. And a lot of times, you can spend a lot of time trying to come up with something that is compelling. But then what happens is that you might paint yourself into a corner, or it might not be approved, and then you can spend a lot of time coming up with another, and so on and so forth. So what designers have done in the past is created thumbnails, and those are just small drawings. You can see it in Feng Zhu's Gnomon workshop that he's got on drawing a mech, and so he draws a bunch of different smaller thumbnails and then develops a few of them a little bit further, and then picks one and then creates the final rendering from it. So in 3D, there are similar processes as well. I can use ZBrush to do it, and it is very effective. And recently I've been using Oculus Medium on the Rift, and in virtual reality, I'm able to create something like this mech right here in the matter of 5 to maybe 15 minutes tops. And so I can spend half a day coming up with a bunch of these, and then if I'm approving it, then I pick the ones that are more in line with what I want to design. And then if an art director is somebody I've been working with, I can put them in VR as well and have them choose the correct option. So there are a lot of benefits to using VR. The biggest one is speed, and I'll talk about why that is in a minute. But the other advantages, of course, also are that it is a completely immersive environment, so that now you can see that I have this object in front of me, and it's kind of hard to convey this because you're actually looking at a video. But if you were in VR, you would actually think that this object was in space in front of you. Let me just kind of cover a few of the advantages of VR, and then I'll get into the specifics of Oculus Medium. This is really not a tutorial on Oculus Medium. There's plenty of great ones on there, but I will show you just a few things that if you just follow those, you'll be able to create kind of quick designs like this one in a very short period of time. So the biggest benefit of VR, of course, is the navigation aspect of it. So in other programs, you have to learn how to navigate by holding down the Alt key or the Shift key or the Control key and using the mouse or the tablet stylus, which works really great. However, a lot of people have some issues getting into it at first, so it takes a bit of a learning curve to get there. But in VR, it's very natural. So here, if I look at my two controllers that I have in my hand, these buttons over here, the grip buttons, the yellow ones, so this one and this one, are basically gripping buttons. So when I press that button down, I'm gripping the object, just like I would in real life, and then I can just manipulate it and move it around very easily. So it's a very natural way of doing it, and I can do it with the right hand or the left hand. Either one works really well. The other thing also is if I press both of them, I can pinch zoom. So just like you can pinch zoom on your cell phone or your tablet, that kind of gesture is pretty natural. So here I can just zoom in on a specific area and work on it and then zoom back out. So just that aspect alone is a big time saver, and it allows you to very quickly move around your object and sculpt on it and work with it. So here I'm working on it as a kind of maybe the size of a plastic model. And I can also make it bigger, work on it like a really big object, or make it really small and visualize what it would look like if I was maybe doing a flyover. So this aspect of it is really useful. And again, I can't really convey this convenience in this video. You actually have to put on a VR headset and try it out for yourself. And it's pretty amazing how you can manipulate an object. I think it's unparalleled and a really cool way to work. That said, there are some disadvantages to VR as well. One of them is that you basically have to wear a VR headset. And so you can only kind of have that face hugger be on your face for a certain amount of time. So in this case, it works out well because, again, you can just do one of these for 15 minutes, take the headset off, walk around, do some other things, come back, put it back on, create another one in 10, 15 minutes, maybe two of them in 15 minutes, and then you'll be done in a pretty short period of time. The other big advantage in being in VR is that you're in the same space as your object. So you can very easily resize it to the size that it would be. And again, I don't know if this 2D video is going to convey this, but I'm actually in the same space as this model, and I'm looking at it as what it would look like maybe in the real world. And having that kind of sense of scale really adds another factor in designing something in 3D, which is pretty unique and also very, very useful. All right, so now that we've kind of covered the benefits, let's go through a couple of other things and talk about Oculus Medium and some of the capabilities that it has. So first of all, I just want to point out that every time I press the grip buttons, I'm getting this kind of cube that appears around my object, and that's actually the working space. So I can sculpt within that space, but I cannot sculpt outside of it. Now, granted, I can make that space bigger, so I can make it maybe the size of a room, like so, or I can make it small. Regardless of either, I am only allowed to sculpt in this space. So over here, I cannot really create anything unless I resize this box, this cube, to a size where I can work in it. Okay, and then the other thing I should also note that you see here is that persistently there is this kind of these little carrots over here with a crosshair in the middle, and that's basically my symmetry line or symmetry plane, right? So whatever I work on one side is replicated on the other. And to show you that, let me go ahead and make my brush a little bit bigger. Here you can see this green dot over here, or green sphere, is basically my sculpting surface or sculpting tool. And then once I press my right trigger, it actually goes ahead and places the objects down, and then it places them on both sides of this. So I can actually cross over and do it. Again, very naturally, you can start adding some shapes into your creation. And then if you want to erase them, you can as well, and we'll cover that in a second. But it's important to know kind of that this is your working space. And then the kind of the white plane here is your symmetry plane. And this symmetry plane could be big. And here it's larger than the cube, or it could be small, but it doesn't really matter. It just represents an infinite plane that basically cuts your model in half and defines the symmetry. The other thing I should also mention is that I've got two controllers, and you could be right-handed or left-handed and swap them around, which is another big benefit. You don't really have a keyboard or a mouse that needs to kind of accommodate your left-handedness or right-handedness. It's very natural, and with just one button you can swap these into the other. So this is called the tool hand or the tool controller, and this is called the support hand or the support controller, right? And so on the support controller, there are thumbsticks on both, just like a gamepad for an Xbox or PlayStation. And these thumbsticks basically do a lot of the work, and you also have 3 buttons. So on here you have the color wheel, the gear button, and on here you have the kind of the file menu button. And then most of everything else you basically do with the triggers, with the grip buttons, and also with the thumbsticks. So here, for example, if I want to undo this sculpting, you notice here that there's an undo and a redo on the support hand. So here I'm going to go backwards and just undo the operations, and you can kind of see these spheres disappear. Okay, and then if I want to choose a different tool, I basically, again here, notice that there's a tool icon over here, and if I push the left thumbstick forward, I get my tool tray, and here are all the different tools that you can use. The ones I use mostly are the clay tool and the move tool, right? There's a paint tool, and sometimes I use that just to kind of see what certain colors look like on my object. And there's also a smooth tool that smooths things out, and if you've used sculpting programs, you're pretty familiar with what that does. So there's a bunch of other tools down here too. I tend not to use them for this purpose. I basically only use the clay tool, the move tool, sometimes a smooth tool, sometimes not, sometimes the paint tool, sometimes not. So these two are basically the workhorses. So one of the other things that you notice here is that the smooth tool has this pink triangle in it, and what that means is that it's an alternate tool. So I can switch back and forth between the clay tool and the smooth tool very easily. So the clay tool is the default, and if I press the left trigger, then it automatically switches me to the smooth tool. So since I don't use the smooth tool that much, I use the move tool more frequently, I can make that my alternate brush or alternate tool. And the way to do that is I just point to it and push on the left trigger, and that puts that pink triangle in there. So now I'm switching between the move tool and the clay tool by just pressing the left trigger. Okay, and so the next thing I should also talk about is the color wheel, which is pretty straightforward. Here I'm going to go ahead and choose maybe a greenish, grayish color for my next mech. And there's a bunch of other things in here. If you've used any 3D program or 2D program, these are pretty straightforward. And next is this gear button, which is basically my tool settings. So when I press that, I get this menu that basically shows me the different shapes I can have, whether I'm adding or subtracting, adding or erasing. And they have tooltips or little videos that show you what they do. And over here, I've got stamps, so I can turn that on and off. And notice that there's some mechanical stamps in here as well, and I can use these to kit bash if I need to. And I might use that in the next tutorial. But for now, I'm just going to use basically just a couple of these. I'm just going to use the cube and the sphere. So here I've got the cube. A couple of things also to note is that I don't need to get into the tool settings to go from erase to add. I can easily switch between those two by double tapping the gear icon. So here, if this is red, I'm erasing. If it's green, I am adding or applying clay, so to speak. One last thing is that if you hold down the thumbstick on your right hand, you can juxtapose where your tool is and where your action is going to be. So the default, of course, and here I will reset it. The default is that the cube is in the middle right here. But if I want to offset it, so I'll make the cube a little bit bigger. If I want to offset it, again, I hold down the right thumbstick and just move my controller to where I want it to go. And I kind of like to work with it on the edge like this. So that's basically it. It's really simple, and if you just spend maybe about 15-20 minutes to half an hour just kind of practicing these things, you'll be up and running pretty quickly. So let's go ahead and just cover a couple of quick concepts, and then once we're done with that, in the next video, we'll cover how to create a mech like this in a very short period of time. So the first thing I'm going to do here is go to my menu and go ahead and start a new sculpture. And notice when I do that, it puts a new kind of space in for me. So there it is. And notice that I'm not getting the screen cube on both sides because mirroring is not on. So mirroring is an easy thing to turn on. All you do again is push your thumbstick forward on your left hand, and this is your tool tray, and underneath the tool tray there's this menu, and if you click on mirror, then that will actually create the mirroring for you. So notice in this case that the mirroring plane is a smaller one, and it doesn't really matter. Again, it's just, you know, if I move outside of it, I'm still getting the mirror effect. It just basically tells me that this is the plane that's cutting my space in half, and whatever I do on one side is going to happen on the other side. Okay, and so here I'm just going to use a couple of different things. So let's say I'm going to model a hull for our mech, and I want that hull to basically house the number of people that I put together in my spec sheet. So that's 8 soldiers, let's say, and then 3 people that are the crew. So I need to design something like that. So the first thing I do is I make my cube size a little bit bigger, and then start creating the volume, the general volume of what that will be. So here I'm just basically just adding a little bit of volume to it. The orientation doesn't matter. This chatter doesn't matter, or jitter doesn't matter. I'm just basically adding kind of rough clay. So this is basically like rolling a ball of clay in your hand or something like that when you're doing practical sculpting, and just creating this volume. Now the magic comes in when I switch to negative mode and make the cube bigger. And so now what I'm doing is actually removing and creating negative space. So I'm basically erasing from this volume. So notice that as I move into the volume, medium kind of gives me a outline of what's going to be erased. So if I just press the button down, I just basically kind of create a planar shape over here. And this is really nice to be able to create hard surface shapes, because you can very easily do that. So here I'll do it again. maybe start up here, and I can make my cube size maybe a little bit smaller and start adding and taking away some of this shape. And again, I don't really mind this little bit of kind of chatter over here, because sometimes it adds to the shape and sometimes it doesn't. But again, this is not going to be the final sculpt. This is just going to be something I'm going to be taking into ZBrush later, and I can do the fine tuning in there. For now, I just want to get some sort of a compelling shape. So as you can see very quickly here, if I want to make a door, let's say in the back, or a hatch where the soldiers get in and out, there's that. And then I can just go in here and make this a little bit bigger, maybe erase some shapes like this, and maybe on the bottom like so. And in a very short period of time, I've got kind of a hull shape that is generated. Again, very quickly, I'm navigating around it, looking around the object, figuring out where things, certain shapes will work. And now that I'm kind of happy with this, I can maybe do some other things. So maybe I want this to be a little bit wider, and that's when I will switch to the move tool. And since I set it as my alternate tool, I can very easily do that. And with the move tool, I can just go ahead and grab a part of my object and move it forward. So here I'm basically maybe making this kind of back part a little bit wider, and this front part maybe a little bit like so, and then basically switch back to here and establish my planes. Now maybe kind of create kind of a scoop like this on over here, like so, and start kind of carving in and out of my shape to get the desired look. Right, so you saw how very quickly I was able to get this shape, and then if I don't like it, of course, it's very easy to erase and start over. It's just as easy as starting with a kind of a blank sheet of paper and generating the shape that you want. So I'm kind of getting a little bit, I'm happy with this. I'm going to go ahead and maybe add a little bit more here. Just want to make sure it's not protruding on the other side. So I'm going to add a little bit of volume over here, and again, subtract it. Oops, that's too much. Like so, and yeah, so that's kind of looking like the hull I want it to be. So that's how easy it is to create kind of a 3D general shape and get it to a point where you can continue on it. So this kind of operation is really kind of conducive to a VR, and I can get to a shape like this very, very quickly. So the next thing I want to do is talk about another thing that's really great in VR, and that's gestural operations. So what I want to do here is, again, go to my tool settings menu and pick the sphere. So now I've got the sphere as the object I'm working with, and what I want to do is create some legs for this mech. So in order to do that, the first thing I want to do is establish where those legs are going to be. So I'm just going to add a few spheres here to let me know that these are where the legs are going to emanate from. And so this is where the engines of those legs would be. And then the next thing I want to do is create those legs. And here's kind of an amazing thing that you can do in VR, and that is to do a quick gesture. So let's say I want the hind legs to go like this, down, and then up, and then over. So this is a very nice gestural way of working, where I basically just created this kind of shape for the hind leg over here, and then I'm going to do the same thing for the middle leg. And notice how easy it is to just rotate around your object to get it to where you want it to go, and then just kind of place this down like so, go up like this, and then go back over this way, right? So this is basically establishing the kind of maybe the hind legs and the middle leg. And then if I want to put two in the front, I can easily do that as well, like so, like so. And again, just get it to the right angle and just place them down. Again, very easy to undo something if you don't like it. And then maybe I can just switch back to my cube shape here and start maybe establishing some planes on the legs themselves. Okay, so you can see how just in a few minutes I can get, what happened to, oh, there it is. It got really small. In a few minutes I can really establish that mech and get it to a, you know, in a kind of a nice shape. And of course, at any point in time, I can go ahead and go into the move tool and maybe add a little bit more interest to this if I want to. And I could do this while the art director is looking. He could just put on another headset and jump into the same space. And we can kind of collaborate on figuring out exactly what we want this kind of mech to look like over here. And let me switch over back to this. And we can just continue to just create planes and work and generate the type of look that we want for our mech. So hopefully you get an idea of how useful VR is in doing this kind of work and how you can get very quick, compelling shapes done very quickly. And in the next video, we'll go ahead and create one. And while I'm explaining what's going on, and then maybe I will have some videos, sped up videos of me creating a bunch. From which we will choose one or two, and then we will have those be the ones that we will develop further in other applications. All right, so that's the end of this video. On to the next stage.